Donald Trump and Ted Cruz vying for the evangelical vote ahead of tomorrow's primaries, and a Pew Research poll shows that 2/3 of Republicans think it is important to have a president who shares their religious beliefs. So who will win the evangelical vote? Well, joining us now to weigh in on this, the president of Notre Dame University, Father Jonathan Dinkins, who is also the author of the new book, The Name of God is Mercy. Father Jenkins, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I just want to correct you. I'm not the author of The Name of God is Mercy.
The Pope is
Francis
the author.
Is the
exactly.
author,
I'm sorry, I read that wrong.
Speak.
I have the book here. We're going to be talking about that in a minute, and the Pope has sent you to talk about this. But first, I want to ask you about the election cycle, because we've seen punches and protests. We've seen so much this election year that we haven't seen in the past. What do you make of that from a Christian standpoint?
Oh, it's complex. It's hard for me. I'm not an expert in politics, but there is deep divisiveness and deep negativity, deep anger in this country, and I don't pretend to analyze it, but I do think for those of us who are Christians, I think it's important to reflect on the mercy of God, the love of God, and what that means for our life, and perhaps to step back from some of the negativity and anger.
Well, I agree with that. Is it interesting this year, usually evangelicals go for the Tea Party or go for the person that is the most evangelical candidate, and many people say that's Ted Cruz. Instead, more Christians, more evangelicals are going to the polls, they say, to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, you know, I'm not an evangelical, and I'm not an expert on politics, so I don't have much to say about that. But I do think religion should influence our votes, and I think we need to reflect on what really is the message of the gospel and how that can inform our political life. Because I do worry about the negativity, anger, and just the difficulty.
Let me ask you this. What is the message then for America? Because voters are confused. There's a juxtaposition here. Do you vote for the person that is going to necessarily follow the word and follow the Bible? Do you vote for the person that is best for the country? What do you look for in a candidate? Because this election cycle is totally different than anything we've ever experienced.
Yeah, it's complex, and I think you have to evaluate your view of the nation and where we stand. But I think for those of us who share a faith in the gospel, I think we have to ask, what would God ask of us? And I think the Pope has some powerful reflections on that.
Let's talk about that. The Pope just wrote this book, The Name of God is Mercy. And I love this because the word mercy is so powerful, because that's what I feel like, especially during Holy Week. That is what God has done for us, shown mercy and grace and forgiveness. I want to read a little excerpt from the book, and then we'll talk about it. Sure. The Pope says, there are no situations we cannot get out of. We are not condemned to sink into quicksand. Jesus is there, his hand extended, ready to reach out to us and pull us out of the mud, out of sin. Mercy will always be greater than any sin. No one can put a limit on the love of the all-forgiving God. Mercy is always greater than your sin. God's mercy is greater than any sin we could ever do.
That's absolutely right. And the powerful thing about that line, the quicksand, is the more, when we find ourselves in quicksand, the more we struggle by our own efforts to get out, the faster we sink. We need to find a solid place. And what the Pope is saying, the solid place is the mercy and love of God. That can transform our heart. What this Pope is interested in is the transformation of our hearts. He's not interested in changing our votes necessarily, not interested in changing even our religion, but changing our hearts through an encounter of the love of God. That is what this Pope is about. And it's wrong to see him simply in a political spectrum. It's right to see him in the spectrum of the powerful love of God.
We've all felt like we've been in quicksand at some point in our lives, so I love that message. Thank you for talking about his book. Also, the Pope on Instagram. He has 1.5 million followers and has only been on Instagram for 2 days.
A powerful presence in our world. I hope we listen to him.
I'm following him now. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks
nice to see you, Father. Thanks for what you do for our country and for the university.
Thanks, Ainsley.
You're welcome.